In week 2, we're going to talk about fractions, decimals, and percents. So your first vocab word is fraction. A fraction is a number in the form of a over b, in which a and b are integers. So we need to remember that too. In b, this means that b does not equal 0. A decimal equivalent is a decimal that names the same number as a fraction. For example, the decimal equivalent of 3/4 is 0.75. So you take 3 divided by 4 and you get 0.75. To calculate the decimal equivalent of a fraction, so I'm going to highlight that too because that's important, divide its numerator by the denominator. You might remember this from 7th grade. A terminating decimal is a decimal number that has digits that do not go on forever, such as 0.5, 0.417. A repeating decimal is a decimal number that has a digit or a group of digits that repeat, such as 0.5 or 0.417. So on the try this, we're going to convert each fraction to an equivalent decimal by dividing its numerator by its denominator, and then label each decimal as terminating or repeating. So we have 2 parts here. First thing we're going to do is take that fraction and turn it into a decimal. So 1/2, if I take 1 divided by 2 in my calculator, I get 0.5. That does not go on forever. It does not repeat, so this is a terminating decimal. Okay? 1/3, so 1 divided by 3. If I do that in my calculator, I get 0.333 ... That means it's repeating. Or you can write it as 0.3 with a line across the top, which would be hard to do with typing right now. So this is a repeating decimal. 2/5, 2 divided by 5, that's 0.4. This does not go on forever, and there's no pattern, so that would be terminating. All right, I'll do one more. 1 divided by 9 for 1/9 is 0.111 ... That does go on forever, and it does have a pattern, so that's a repeating decimal. Okay? Number 7, they want us to write the following decimals in order from least to greatest. So we're going from smallest to biggest. And they do put some repeating decimals in here, so we kind of have to watch that. So we have 0.4, 0.1 repeating, 0.5, 0.6 repeating, 0.16 repeating, and 0.75. So my smallest decimal there is going to be 0.1 repeating, because 1 is obviously the smallest number there after the decimal point. So I'm going to cross that one off. The next smallest one, or the next biggest one, however you want to read it, after 0.1 would be 0.16 repeating. So we're going to cross that off. So I have 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 repeating, and 0.75. Well, I know that 4 comes after 1 and before 5, so my next decimal would be 0.4, and then 0.5. So we're going to cross those off. The ones that I have left are 0.6 repeating and 0.75. Well, 6 comes before 7, so 0.6 repeating would come next, and then 0.75 would be your greatest. So again, we went from least to greatest. On the practice, we're going to write each fraction as an equivalent decimal. If the decimal is a repeating decimal, color its box. If the decimal is terminating decimal, do not color the box. On your slides, I just have a box that you can drag to it if it is repeating, because I know that you guys can't shade in or anything. So I'll do a couple of these just as examples. So 3/15, 3 divided by 15 is 0.2. That is not a repeating decimal. It is a terminating decimal because it ends. So the directions say if the decimal is terminating, do not color it. So I'm not going to color that box because it's a terminating decimal. 5/15, so 5 divided by 15, I get 0.333 ... So that is repeating. So I would shade that box in. Yours, you will just drag a colored box to it to show that it's a repeating decimal. Let's do 2/8. So 2 divided by 8, I get 0.25, and that is a terminating decimal, so I'm going to leave it blank. 3/21. So 3 divided by 21, I get a big old long decimal, but it's not, and it is repeating. So if you get that big old long decimal that goes on forever, that is a repeating decimal. So 0.1428 oh, I missed a 5. 5714. So that is a repeating decimal. So I'm going to shade that box in. Let's see. Let's do 2/12. So 2 divided by 12, I get 0.1666 repeating. So I would shade that box in. Okay, so you're gonna take these fractions, find the decimal equivalent, and if it's a repeating decimal, you're gonna put a color in the box. On your slide number 3 on your practice page, you're doing the same thing, okay? If it is a repeating decimal, you are going to shade the box. So again, I have put a colored box for you to drag over if you need to. If it's terminating, you're just going to leave the box unshaded. Okay, so again, so if I take 5 divided by 15, I get 0.333 repeating. So I would shade in that box. So you would drag your colored box over to there. But if I do 7/14, so if I do 7 divided by 14, I get 0.5, and that's a terminating decimal, so I'm going to leave it unshaded. Okay, so if it repeats, you're going to shade. If it terminates, you're going to unshade. Okay, and I've just made a box on Google Slides that's shaded in, and you will just drag it